I used to rent my house on Airbnb until a 9 p.m. emergency call changed everything. I walked into my own property and found 3 strangers waiting for me in the basement. One had a gun. They said the water wasn't working, but it was never about the water. This is what they planned, and why I'll never trust Airbnb guests again. I used to manage a house I owned by renting it out through Airbnb. My wife and I bought the place a few years back, thinking it would be a smart investment, a vacation rental in a high-traffic area. Instead of leasing it long-term like most people would, we decided to make it a short-term rental to generate more income. At first, it really worked. In fact, the money was good, really good, as long as we kept the place booked consistently. The guests rolled in. Some stayed a weekend, others just one night. Most were tourists or couples getting away from their busy lives, looking for a clean, quiet spot close to all the attractions. The reviews were great, the stars kept piling up, and everything felt like a dream come true. But what Airbnb doesn't tell you is how exhausting it becomes. It wasn't just hand over the keys and relax. No, it was a full-time job on top of my actual job. Every checkout had to be followed by a cleaning crew. Every check-in meant checking messages, updating instructions, and ensuring the house was spotless. We had to stay on top of inquiries, maintain the home's upkeep, and deal with every minor guest concern like it was a 5-alarm fire, because one bad review could tank our listing. Still, we kept at it for a couple of years. Most of the guests were respectful, and many we never even met. I'd just text them the door code, and they'd let themselves in and out. We'd exchange maybe 2 or 3 texts: arrival, departure, and the occasional, "How do I turn on the fireplace?" That was it. But then there was that night, the night everything changed. It was a Thursday, and I remember because it was one of the few days I didn't have work. I was finally unwinding on the couch, watching a rerun with my phone on silent. A new guest had checked in that afternoon, a young couple, according to the reservation details. Just one night, nothing out of the ordinary. At 9 p.m., I glanced at my phone and saw a message from the guest. "I'm going to call you in a minute." I didn't like that. The tone was off. No "hey" or "sorry to bother you," just that one sentence. Something about it made my stomach twist. Still, I waited. Sure enough, a minute later my phone lit up. It was the guest calling. I answered, trying to sound cheerful, but his voice was flat. "Hey, the water's not working." No apology, no explanation, just those 5 words. I paused. "Really? That's strange. It was working earlier, I'm so sorry about that." I could hear background noise like they were moving around, but no other voices. Just his. Something wasn't sitting right. "I can stop by and take a quick look just to make sure everything's okay," I offered. "Yeah, that'd be great," he said immediately. No rush. The politeness felt rehearsed. So I grabbed my keys, slipped on a jacket, and drove over. The house wasn't far, just 10 minutes away. As I pulled into the driveway, I noticed something unusual. 2 cars. That was weird. The reservation was for a couple. 2 people, 1 night. 2 cars might not seem like a big deal, but in this context, it was strange. Airbnb didn't allow guests to bring other people unless they were registered. If they were just passing through town for 1 night, why bring 2 cars? I got out slowly, trying to rationalize it. Maybe one of them came from another city. Maybe a friend dropped them off. Maybe, whatever. I shook it off and walked up to the front door. I knocked, no answer. I waited a few seconds, then entered the code and stepped inside. The house was dark, quiet, too quiet. I expected them to be waiting for me or at least to hear movement, but the living room was empty, the kitchen untouched. No sounds, no footsteps, no voices. Just that eerie, suffocating silence that feels heavier than normal. I hesitated. Something didn't feel right, but I reminded myself I was here to check the water. That was it. Quick in, quick out. Maybe they were in the bedroom or out grabbing food. Who knows? So I went to the basement. The water main was located behind the furnace, a little tucked away but easy to access. I crouched down and checked for signs of a leak. Maybe something that would explain the issue. Nothing. Dry, no flooding, no drips, no damage. I turned the main valve slightly, and immediately I heard the pipes groan to life. The water was back on, but it hadn't malfunctioned. Someone had shut it off, manually. That realization hit me like ice in the spine. I stayed frozen for a moment. Who would do that? Why? There was only one answer. The people who were supposedly staying in the house. But why? Were they trying to trick me into giving a discount? Get a free night? Maybe even scam Airbnb by saying the house was uninhabitable? Or was it something worse? Suddenly, I felt exposed, vulnerable. I was crouched in a dark basement, completely alone. Or at least, I thought I was. I stood up slowly and took a deep breath. My instinct told me, leave now, get out of the house. I wasn't going to stick around to confront anyone or argue about water. I turned toward the stairs, and that's when I heard it. The basement door opened, footsteps, multiple, heavy, slow footsteps, coming down the stairs. I backed away instinctively. Shadows moved at the top of the steps, then they came into view. 3 men, not a young couple, not even young. These guys were easily in their 40s or 50s. One of them was the voice I heard on the phone. I recognized it instantly. The other 2 looked rough, scruffy beards, hard eyes, tense shoulders. They didn't look like guests. They looked like a gang. Is it fixed? The one in front asked, his voice flat. I swallowed. Yeah, I muttered. The valve was just turned off. I turned it back on. Should be fine now. None of them responded. They just stared at me. I wanted to leave. Every muscle in my body was screaming at me to run, but I kept my tone casual. Well, if anything else comes up, feel free to text. I'll head out now. I tried to walk between them, toward the stairs. They didn't move. They just watched me. I squeezed past, heart pounding in my ears. Then I saw it. A gun, tucked into the waistband of the man closest to the stairs. He wasn't trying to hide it. He wanted me to see it. I froze, heart thundering in my chest. But none of them said a word. They just stood there, watching. I forced myself to move. Slowly, carefully, I walked up the stairs. They didn't follow. I stepped outside, closed the door behind me, and nearly sprinted to my car. As soon as I got home, I woke my wife up and told her everything. We didn't even argue. She immediately said, "Call the police." I did. 20 minutes later, an officer called from the property. "No one's answering the door. Do you have a spare key?" I gave him the door code. Another 20 minutes passed. We checked everything. The house is empty, no one inside. That night, I couldn't sleep. The next day, the truth unraveled. The credit card used to book the place? Stolen. Several items inside the house? Gone. Decorations, appliances, thousands in damages. Airbnb launched an investigation. The reservation had fake information. No trace of the actual people involved. But the worst part, the thing I still think about, was this. Why didn't they do anything to me? They had me trapped, lured me there on purpose, shut off the water just to bring me to the basement. They had a gun. They outnumbered me. They waited for me. But then they just let me go. Why? Did they get cold feet? Were they trying to scare me? Was it about the theft? Or was something far worse originally planned? I'll never know. After that night, I made one rule. Never enter the property when guests are staying. Ever. A few months later, we pulled the listing and rented the house long-term. No more strangers. No more surprise calls at night. Just peace. At least, for now.